For everyone listening on Zoom, we are far away from having quorum, so we can get started shortly. For everyone listening on
Not to have a land
Zoom,
hearing on this.
we are one way from
Got to
quorum,
join.
and we'll be starting
Saying at
shortly.
transfer.
All right, everybody, we're gonna get started. I should just like. Okay, all right, we're gonna start. Well, I guess I with Brad. Welcome everybody to the July land use meeting, land use committee for Community Board 8. trying to keep my mic away from the other mic. I just want to start off by thanking Hunter College. I'll just turn mine on. I want to thank Hunter College and interim president Kirchner for hosting us here this evening. For joining us.
You don't have a line.
No, it'll be all right. For letting us be here and use their facilities tonight. And so let's get started with the first item on the agenda, which is the HSS River Building second renewal. I'll invite you guys to come up and present. There's a podium here and seats. I think this is probably going to be the best.
Give me a second to get your slides up.
Good evening, everyone. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce myself and my team.
And you're.
Maybe you hold it. Is it on?
Hello.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's a little better. My name is Michael Rollins. I'm the Senior Vice President at HSS. I am responsible for facilities, construction, and support services. And I'm joined here this evening by my colleagues, Melissa.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Melissa Kiefer. I'm the Vice President for Project Development, Planning, Design, and Construction, HSM.
And Wesley O'Brien, Land Use Council for Free Frank.
Thank you. So if you'd like to go to the first slide, we can go over some of the agenda that we'll be touching. Before we do, we just wanted to, for those of you who may not know, Hospital for Special Surgery or HSS, we are the world's largest academic medical center specializing in musculoskeletal health. For over 160 years. We're home to 20 laboratories dedicated to basic and translational sciences. We have more than 35,000 surgeries per year take place, 90% or more hip replacements than any of the next leading hospital. Most important, we are ranked #1 in orthopedics worldwide by Newsweek for the past 3 consecutive years, and nationally by U.S. News and World Report as the leading orthopedic hospital for the past 13 years. We're also the only hospital in North America designated by the World Economic Forum to serve in the Global Coalition for Value in Healthcare. Next slide. So our agenda tonight, we're going to talk about the special permit renewal. And then Melissa and I would like to take the opportunity to update you on the status of the HSS River Building, or what we're calling it now, the HSS Common Tower. And we'll touch base with you on recent work completed, including current updates, upcoming milestones, and a quick review of the project schedule. We'll also share with you how to get information and updates on the project by going to our website. And then Melissa will also take the opportunity to go over the HSS Esplanade Improvement project as well too. So I'm going to turn it over to Wesley, who's going to go over the special permit renewal process with you. Wesley? Yes.
So HSS has filed an application seeking a second and final renewal of a special permit that was granted pursuant to 74-682 of the zoning resolution. Recognizing the critical services provided by HSS and its hospital neighbors and the limited space available for their expansion, the New York State Legislature passed a law in 1971 allowing the city to close space above the FDR Drive, including the space where the Common Tower will be located, and convey it to the hospitals. This has been done, and the City Planning Commission granted a special permit providing for 2 things. First, allowing for the construction of the building in this space. It's the development of a 12-story, approximately 87,000 square foot hospital building in the DMAP space above the FDR Drive between 71st and 72nd Streets. And then secondly, to modify the loading berth requirements, allowing the building to be served by two of the existing loading berths on HSS's main campus, the West Wing building, which the berths are along the south side of 71st Street.
Can you hold your mic closer to your mouth?
Sure.
Thank you.
As most of you know, construction is underway, and therefore we're seeking a final renewal of the special permit pursuant to ZR zoning resolution section 1143. As detailed in the application, there's been no change in the design or massing of the building, and there's been no change in the location and number of loading berths that would serve the building. Therefore, as required for the renewal permit, the facts on which the special permit was granted have not substantially changed. With that, I'll turn it back to Michael to provide updates on the construction.
Thank you. Melissa, maybe you can go back to the slide there. Tell us a little bit about the Callan.
Sure, to remind everyone, the Callan Tower is an important building to our main campus transformation project, which will allow us to increase space for our musculoskeletal care that we provide to the community. What it's going to do is allow us to move program from the main hospital building into the new Callan Tower and accommodate 3 new large ORs and privatizing our inpatient beds, which is a standard of care that we want to be able to meet. Next one. So we wanted to outline some of the recent work completed as part of the Callan Tower construction. We provided a bit of a campus map here just to remind everyone what HSS's main campus looks like. So the Callan Tower is on the far right, if you're looking at it. And we have work going on in several of our main campus buildings, including our Bel Air building, our ambulatory pavilion building, and our main hospital. The electric service for the new Callan Tower is in our Bel Air building, and we recently delivered an electric switchgear there. And we continue to work on our storm and sanitary piping for the new building. And we've also recently completed a lot of the steel column work, as you can see in the picture there, on the east side of the Esplanade, that'll support our new building.
Certainly. So currently, we are on site working on building a temporary work platform over both the southbound 71st Street exit, which is shown in the picture on the right-hand side that has actually been completed. Also, we've completed installing the work platform over the southbound lanes of the FDR. You can actually see this is a great picture that was taken during the 5-borough bike event recently, when the FDR was closed southbound for all of the bicycles. We are working to complete the temporary work platform, which will cover the northbound lanes. And then this will allow us to be able to bring in 3 large steel modules that are currently being built on a shipyard dock over in New Jersey. Those modules will be craned into place above the work platform, above the FDR, and will allow us to actually build the building over the FDR drive while traffic is going underneath in both directions. The delivery of the steel modules is scheduled to be completed sometime in September. We're working together with the New York City Department of Transportation. And earlier in the back in the agenda, there was a picture of a large barge with a crane that was used to actually deliver the Y columns that you see on the right-hand side or on the east side of the FDR. We are continuing to move forward with a number of other parts of the construction project. We have the curtain wall, which is being fabricated in the United Emirates. And we are also working on the fabrication of the glass that will make up the exterior curtain wall of the building. All of that is scheduled to be delivered sometime before the end of the year. Next slide. This is the one of those steel modules that is on the docks over in New Jersey. It's waiting until September to be delivered and craned into place over the FDR. And later, we will be installing a hoist to move men and manpower and labor and materials on the exterior of the building. And we'll also be installing a tower crane that will be used to lift the steel into place over the FDR while traffic is going in both directions. Next slide. Melissa, you want to talk a little bit about the project schedule and the upcoming milestones?
Sure, I think you've covered a number of them through the fall of the steel modules delivered in September. And then in November, you'll see that we'll be erecting a tower crane to support the construction operations. Into early 2024, we'll be working on our new sky bridge that connects the Kellen Tower to the third floor of our main hospital building, along with all of our patient transport between the two new buildings. And then we'll be topping off the steel also in early 2024. And begin to close in the building with the curtain wall. The building will be fully enclosed in middle of next year, and then we'll be once the project's complete at the end of 2025, removing the temporary work platform that Michael described. Next slide. Next slide.
Oh, sorry. I'm so used to not being in control of that, and it's like.
No, not a problem. Michael, do you want to talk about the meeting?
Sure, so just a reminder, in looking at that calendar, 1 year from right about at this time, the building will have been completely built and will be closed in with curtain wall, and then we will only be working on the interior fit out of the building. So 12 more months, and in those 12 months, obviously a lot happening. So if you'd like more information about the Kellen Tower building, we are doing a number of different things. We've been updating the community board on both the Kellen Tower as well as the beautification of the East River Esplanade. We have set up a website that you can get to by clicking on the link on the presentation that's been shared with you this evening. That link allows you to put in your email address, and each month we provide an email update to anyone who's signed up for an update of what's going on. It's a brief description of what recently has taken place and what is going on in the next month. We're also been working very closely with a lot of the residential buildings in our direct neighborhood, and we've been providing what's called a 2-week look ahead. That is also available by going to that website, and you can click on it and you can see exactly day by day what is planned, and if there's any disruption for the project, it'll be clearly spelled. Next slide. So Melissa's going to talk to you about our continued investment in the East River Esplanade.
Might be running out of battery. If I jump off into it, I feel like
I think people are
Oh, I think we need the microphone. You would hold it close to your mouth.
Okay, so I'll do an overview of the East River Esplanade work that we're doing. As a reminder, HSS had previously done work from 70th to 72nd, and we'll restore that as part of the Kellen Tower project. But as part of Kellen Tower, we are continuing to improve from 72nd to 78th Street. We have engaged Quinnell Rothschild Partners, who is our landscape architect, have been working with Parks Department as well as the community board and the Friends of the East River Esplanade to make sure that the design is what it needs to be under the parks guidelines. And we have added a new area for the community's request on 75th Street or at 75th Street for fitness equipment, which will be added and integrated as part of the design. Next slide. So we continue to work closely with Parks as they are doing a project that is overlaps with ours between 76th Street and 78th Street. Where they're calling their phase 3 project. Their construction will start in early 2024. Our intention is to start construction and follow them so that we can return the Esplanade as efficiently as possible to the community. The Public Design Commission approved the integration of the fitness equipment I mentioned in May of 2023. Right now, we're working on finishing our construction documents. And we will be bidding those out and getting more scheduled logistics by the fall, so we can come back and update you all on the exact schedules that we'll have. Preliminary plans that we're going to asphalt the contractors for, but we can't actually have some important. Next one. And so that's more of the schedule I just described, how we will be coordinating with Parks Department to work with them as they're doing their scope of work. And we will open portions of the Esplanade and other things we are able to, but the full Esplanade completion will not be until the middle of 2025.
That concludes our presentation and update. We're here to answer any questions that you may have.
So before we do that, can we just talk a little bit more about the need for the renewal?
Sure. So the renewal, the initial cycle of was granted for a period of 4 years, which is extended to the planning. Yes. Okay. The initial special permit was granted for a period of 3 years, rather 4 years, and then up to 2 renewals are allowed after that. We had an initial renewal that was granted for the 3-year period, and now we're seeking the second.
So, okay. So, thank you very much for that. All the information you provided in the very comprehensive presentation. So, Will is going to talk in a minute about some of the Zoom logistics, but essentially, so we here in the purpose of the land use committee meeting is to weigh in on the renewal. But I thought it would be good also just to get an update on the construction. And so if folks have questions about that also, understand they just us here. So we'll take questions or comments from the public first, and then we'll go to board members. And I don't know if we have anybody on Zoom, but there is somebody. Why don't, before I start calling on people, let's just get Will to run through the Zoom logistics.
All right, if you are participating in Zoom and you would like to ask a question, we ask that you go to the reactions icon on your screen and press the raise hand button. Only press it once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. If you're calling in from the phone, it is star 9 to I've done this for 3 years. Star 9 to raise your hand, and then star 6 to unmute whatever you're called on. And be on the lookout for a prompt on your screen to confirm unmuting. Board members who are on Zoom, you must have your video on to be considered present. You will not be considered present if your video is off.
Thank you. So I see we do have a comment from the public, and I would just ask if you're from the public in person, just identify yourself, please, before your question or your comment. But ma'am.
My name is Carla Antonucci, and I live in Manhattan. I wonder why that sign that's in the open in spring of 2023 is now well into the summer of 2023, and this just seems to be an ongoing thing. I'm a jogger. I see people like to jog, they like to walk, they like to bike, and that area is almost unusable because there's this big eyesore there at 73rd Street. It's really annoying because it's really a nice stretch where you would be able to go down and then go up and go to like the 90s. And I just want to say, somebody who lives in the area, it's really disappointing. I feel like I have no place to go because now we have all these bikes that occupy the streets. It's almost impossible to cross, rather bikes that are on the sidewalk. It's almost impossible to cross the street because, they don't pay attention to the lights. The only place I can really go is in some park. And I just want to say, as somebody who's in the community, I don't know really what value this is of me. I realize that you're a premier institution, but that doesn't affect everybody. And I just don't think it's right. I mean, I don't think for 40 years that any given time between New York hospital for special surgery, whatever projects are going on there, there's always a part of that area that's like obstructed there. There's like almost nowhere to go. I also don't understand, like, I run in Central Park, they're excavating the north end of the park where they're taking out the pool and everything. I think that site was only closed for something like a month. This was during the winter, and they were able to do it where it wasn't an inconvenience to the people of the community. So if you wanted to run the whole route, you could. And if there was a part of that where it was obstructed for a while, you can make an alternate route where you didn't have to go around the whole thing. But it wasn't as big of a deal. But this seems to be like an ongoing project, and it's just really disappointing. That's really all I wanted to say. And I don't really understand why it's like such a big, like you have these timeframes, and it doesn't seem like nothing is ever met. And I think people in the community suffer from it. I know I do, but I know that other people that I've spoken to are also disappointed.
Well, I would like to respond, and first of all, apologize for any inconvenience, the building of the HSS Allen Tower has impacted you as well as the community. That said, the signs do say HSS Allen Tower coming in, by the end of 2024.
Actually, no, the last time I think I looked at it, it said spring of 2023. I lived in the area a long time. I used that area. And that's why I was thinking to myself, oh, well, we can open in spring of 2023. Well, the spring came, summer's here, and now it's.
Understood. What we have tried to do is provide access at 71st Street to the Esplanade going south. There is also access to the Esplanade going north at the 78th Street where John Jay is. We understand that this is a big inconvenience to the community. We are trying to work as quickly as possible to get this building done. Unfortunately, because of the amount of work that has had to take place with the foundations that will hold the building up over the FDR Drive, that work has had to take place during the evenings when we were able to successfully get shutdowns from the New York City Department of Transportation. So yes, it has taken a bit longer than we wanted. I think what we are trying to work on is trying to get the building up as quickly as possible and the Esplanade reopened to the community as quickly as possible. Once that's done, the Esplanade will be in a lot better shape than it was before. Part of the Parks project is to fix a lot of the sinkholes. And then a part of the project that HSS is funding is to restore and make it beautiful with all brand new plantings, exercise equipment. It will be amazing space to spend time on. And as the Esplanade is actually connected to the work that's being done south on 60th Street, it's going to be a really great opportunity where you'll have space north of 96th Street, going all the way down to the new bridge that goes over the FDR on 53rd Street. So my apologies. We are trying to get this done. I understand it is inconvenience, and again, apologize.
Okay, well, I have another question. You work in the evening when you do it, because I usually pass that way in the morning. But recently, I've been going down there in the evening. I've been taking long walks, and I've gone down there as late as 8 o'clock, and I don't see anybody working in that area.
So the stipulations that we've received from the New York City Department of Transportation, close the highways in order to do the work, takes place between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m.
All right.
All right, Michelle.
Thanks, Russell. Can you clarify, you say it's a 12-story building. How many feet is that?
It's approximately 158 feet.
So,
Okay,
okay,
but
so
it
that's
is elevated.
closer than, often these days when we talk about 12 stories or stories, we think of 10 feet. And then it's 15 stories and we find out it's 300 feet. So I wanted to clarify. So you're close to what we wouldn't consider 12 stories, okay, around 15. Also, can you go back to one of the first slides that showed what is currently there? You've got it on that one that you just passed. Is that what's currently there?
No, that is on the left-hand side.
That's your
currently
proposal.
there, and what is built on the right, what is.
I can't hear you, I'm
right-hand side.
sorry.
I'm sorry, on the left-hand side is currently the HSS main hospital building.
Right,
On the right-hand side is a rendering of what the new HSS Kellen Tower will be.
okay, and what is to the right of that?
The right of that is the Edgewater Building and then the 72nd Street overlook.
Which Phil, I know the 72nd Street, is that the Bel Air? That's
No,
not the
the
Bel Air.
Bel Air is set back.
Yeah,
There's the Edgewater Building is
oh, that,
first,
okay,
and then the Bel Air is not along the river, it's actually.
right, it's said
right
a little
along.
bit on 71st
That's
Street.
correct.
Okay, so what we're looking at, the proposal is in the middle,
No, is this right there?
right there, right hand side.
It's the furthest north. Furthest.
Oh, well, that's what I was asking about, okay. And the proposal is that entire structure,
It's not, sorry, just to be clear, what they're constructing right now is the part on the far right. They're not here proposing that, that's already been approved. All they're here to do is renew the special permit allowing for the construction because they're, just to give them the time to finish the. construction.
so, but of course, what would happen if you were denied the special permit? That's what we're looking at, okay. I mean, what's your alternative? You're in construction.
There's no alternative, I mean, it's, you know, we're just.
Well, that's why I'm asking.
It's largely a technical matter. It's to the extent that the special permit conditions are not changing, and the application is not changing. It is renewed by the city planning commission.
So this is just a protocol, all right?
Yeah, it's
There's
gonna
no
be-
alternative.
Yeah, but I think it's, you
All
know,
right,
good
just
for us
wanted to
to
clarify.
get a chance and also to hear from them about. the
Yeah,
progress.
that's good, but that nothing new is happening. Okay, thank you.
Stephanie from the public.
I'm a resident of 78 up in the Upper East Side. I've been a frequent patient at HSS. I'm interested, how long has the Kelvin Tower been under construction? And soup to nuts, when do you expect it to be functional? How long will that going to take?
So we signed a construction contract in June of 2021. We finally received the approvals from the New York City Department of Transportation to begin scheduling roadway shutdowns on the FDR in December and January of 2022. We have been working over the past 18 months on the foundation work. That work has been completed, and we've been coming out of the ground with the structural steel and working on the platform. As I shared with you, about a year from now, we intend that the building will be fully built, the steel work completed, and the building closed in with curtain wall. We will then move to the phase of building out the interiors of the building, and that will take about another 18 months. And we are anticipating opening up the Kelvin Tower in Q3 of 2020.
Margaret.
Thank you. I support your request. And I have to say, thank you to Bill and scale, a human scale. I think you're doing the right thing. You can go you hire a little bit, no, that's no problem. The only thing is, you just mentioned, I'm not trying to change your agreement, but you just mentioned the sinkholes on the Esplanade. The biggest problem is, there is a report that the retention wall of the river doesn't get problem. So you wanna do something nice. It's gonna damage completely after you finish, probably in 2 or 3 years. And I think, I don't know if you wanna consider to help us to build a new retention wall, which is convenient for your project and for the foundation of your project. I don't know, but I don't want to push anything, but whatever you do and benefit for this triple land, which is precious for the community. And thank you so much.
So I'll turn it over to Melissa, who can answer. And I think we can go back to one of the slides concerning the Esplanade. I think it was maybe the last slide, Will. Excuse me.
Sure, and we continue to work closely with parks, and we're very well aware of the sinkholes in the area. And every time we meet with them, we do reiterate, the parks, work to help us prepare the structure to make sure that the improvements we're making, will last. Their phase 3 work, only overlaps with the improvement that we're making from 76th Street to 78th Street. But we have shown them photos, and they've gone and re-inspected in the last few months, all of the signals, we showed them south of that. So we're hopeful that we can find a way to coordinate those being repaired prior to us putting new pavers on.
I'm sorry to follow up, but there is a report of that, and it's
Yes.
first one engineer can read this, and they find out there's a good condition. And that's what I'm trying to see, if you got that consideration. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for this great presentation. I actually have two questions, so I'll go over them one by one. The first one, or actually there are two that are both related to the environmental friendly addition that you must be doing, and I just wanted to learn more. One was, are you doing anything? I heard about it tonight and all of the different details, and it's so, it's fabulous that you're doing that. We need that. Are you doing anything for the roof as well? Like, do you have, because we didn't hear any of that mentioned. Number two, saying 1A, 1B, and we have solar panels. So that, I heard about the Edison, but I wanted to know, are you also going to be, will you have solar panels so that you can create energy as well? So those were two. The third one, and I can mention the third and then we can answer them one by one. Third is separate. I wanted to learn, you said that next year, the building is going to be enveloped. Would that impact the neighbors in any way? I know you're working inside that. Just wanted to learn if that impacts our neighborhood.
Sure, I can speak to the roof question first. Yes, we are installing a green roof. We're still working out exactly what the details of that are with our architects and designers and consultants to make sure it's making the most impact possible. So we're happy to share those once we have those. We are not currently planning for solar panels in our Kellen Tower, but we are working closely with Con Edison on a number of sustainability initiatives for the environment. So happy to ask that question specifically to our team and get back to you. What was the last question?
The last question was, so if you remember the rendering, a year from now, that's exactly what the building will look like. With the exception of there'll continue to be the work platform underneath it. And so what is great about that is that there will no longer be any more major impacts to the community because we will not be shutting down traffic. We will not be closing lanes. We will not be chopping, moving steel around. It should basically be as if the building was completed. And yes, there will be many men inside, many women inside helping to build out the interiors. But a year from now, that will be over the FDR with the work platform underneath until the building is completely finished.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. So one request to what, first part of my question, is there a possibility that you can discuss or add to, for the solar panels? Because, that's something that's coming up. We're all working together. It benefits, maybe you might be able to create energy and it helps the community. So is there a possibility of thinking on those?
So I will tell you, the New York City local law requires on new buildings either a re-roof or solar panels. Understanding that this building is being built over a highway alongside a river with a neighboring island in place, solar panels can be very reflective. And so the decision reflective. And so the decision was made, instead of going with solar, and because the size of the roof is actually quite small, there would not really be enough solar panels up there to generate much solar energy to help offset the benefits of having a green roof, which helps to, again, reduce carbon emissions, helps to clean and purify the air. So both were considered. We decided on the green roof. This is actually a small building surrounded by a lot of other taller buildings. And so the solar power is, I think, would have been an issue with the community as opposed to the green roof. But what Melissa was saying is that HSS is very much committed to sustainability and trying to reduce our carbon footprint in many different ways. We're one of the first organizations to have a director of sustainability and infrastructure who's all looking at every single project that we're doing and trying to figure out how we can do it better, more efficient, and most importantly, better for the environment.
Can I just request that in your next meeting, you can, especially talk about that one.
We'd love it.
We can learn more.
Yeah.
It's so great that you've considered more.
Hospitals are big users of power because we're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so, we're looking to do everything that we can to reduce carbon footprint.
Gene.
Oh, could you explain the derivation of Callan for Callan Tower?
So Kellen Tower is acknowledgement to our generous donation that we got for the building. It is the Anna Stephen Kellen Tower. And so we're acknowledging them for their generous contribution to HSS, and then that's how we've named the tower and we're referring to it as we add to our campus.
Mike.
Is this a union build project?
It is an open shop project. We have a number of union trades, not all union. So a lot of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing contractors are union. There have been union contractors that have done all the excavation and foundation work, but it is not a 100% union.
So the structural steel and the curtain walls will be done non-union, is that what you're saying?
To my knowledge, I don't believe so. My understanding is that they are a union contractor. And if you want to see us afterwards, we'll tell you exactly who the general contractor is, or who the contractor is that's doing the curtain walls.
Okay.
All right.
Judy.
Yeah, like for resolution on the board and then secondly, speak to it, move to approve the special permit. Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for all your work to make our Esplanade a better park. If you can get us more information on the phase 3, we'd be very happy to have it because we haven't heard it from the Parks Department, so maybe you folks can find that out. My one question is that second trend, you know what that is? I'm not quite sure exactly where that one would be located.
So the tower crane will be erected on the far eastern end of the building over the Esplanade and will be along the river. So it will not be over the highway.
Oh, the out in the river.
It'll be out over the river.
Okay, and then it'll lift stuff over.
That's
Okay,
correct.
got it. Thank you.
Valerie.
Thank you for the update. Is the information about what the Esplanade updates and improvements, is that on the website?
No, it isn't. It's actually for the Kellen Tower project, but you bring up a great suggestion. And we'll go back with our public relations folks and add updates on that as well.
Okay, you mentioned that you're working with the community board. Is that in conjunction with our parks committee? I'm trying to understand the.
Yes, it is. Melissa and I have presented numerous occasions to the Parks Committee, Parks and Waterfront Committee of CB8. And have communicated a number of times to the general, at a general board meeting as well.
And with respect to the sinkholes, whose responsibility is that when they happen? I mean, does the hospital have any responsibility to help remediate those?
No, so it is a part of Parks responsibility, and that's why we are delaying some of our work until the Parks Department has completed theirs. And then, obviously, part of our agreement with Parks will be to maintain the Esplanade, but that does not include structural repairs such as.
And when you mentioned the paver, right? So let's assume that another sinkhole goes up. Are those pavers the kind that can actually come up easily or would be replaced? I mean, are they sinkhole ready?
Yeah.
So I think you could see from some of the existing sinkholes that they've fallen into the holes.
Right.
So we can talk to Parks about their standards, but we follow what they tell us to build. So we would just replace them. And as part of the project, we are providing some level of that so they can be quickly replaced. But
Okay, now the next question is sort of a double-edged sword. Do you, in terms of, have you ever thought about having a snow melt system for the Esplanade in your area so that it doesn't have to be, so that it can be used by runners, even like after a snowstorm?
That would be a great idea, but obviously it would require a tremendous amount of energy that, I'm not sure would have the benefit, right? So a lot of snow melt systems that you see built into concrete are powered either by electricity or by steam. And both of those utilities on the Esplanade are limited supply.
Oh, and because of this, it's the Esplanade.
It's correct.
Okay.
There's very limited power.
So not a larger donation would be able to make that.
Well, part of our maintenance agreement. Part of our maintenance agreement also includes.
It'll be the Mason,
I mean, it's the responsibility of the hospital to clean that part of the Esplanade, right?
That's correct. We will be taking on that
Okay, all
responsibility.
right, thanks a lot.
I have just a clarification. When you talked about where the electrical systems were going, did you say it was in the basement?
Yes, I did. The electrical switchgear room that will power up the entire Kellen Tower is actually going to be located in the cellar area of the Bel Air building. It is 2 buildings away from the Kellen Tower. We have our switchgear, we're building a room, and we're running pipes and wires. We're running pipes and wires from the Bel Air building through the pavilion that will power the
I thought since Ida, we weren't supposed to do that, but the
So-
last meeting we had with Con Ed talked about electrical system and I didn't understand.
So, yes, you're right. There's all sorts of building around 100 in the 500-year floodplain. This particular building, the Bel Air building, is above the 500-year floodplain. That said, we are also taking as a part of this opportunity to better protect due to floods, installing a number of flood-proof submarine doors from the pavilion building.
Okay, thank you.
Wilma,
Call question.
say it again. Anyone opposed to calling the question? Okay. So for votes, now that we're back in person, hybrid, all of that, for those who remember what it was like before COVID, we used to do roll call votes, so we're gonna be back to that system for these meetings. But if it's unanimous, I don't think we need to go through a full roll call, so if this is unanimous, good, is anybody opposed to this? Anyone on the Zoom, it's, raise your hand if you are opposed to the resolution. Okay, so all in favor, say aye. Aye. Great, okay, so the resolution passes, so thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much. And for the record, we have Gail Barron, Lori Morris, Anthony Cohn, Lindsay Cormack, Craig Later, and Juno Cholasan. Sorry, let's grab that thing, who are video in attendance right now.
Yeah.
I said Gail.
Yeah, that's the. So, next we hear from 220 East 86th Street, so you guys can make your way up here.
Russell.
Yes.
You guys can sort of people in my sweater.
Presentations are on your tablets, on the website, and on the screen right now.
All right, go ahead.
Good evening, I'm Carrie Harris, Caroline Harris, partner Goldman Harris LLC. We represent the applicant. It's really fun for me to be here tonight. I appreciate that it's in person. I am a former board member, and it's been years since I've been at a board meeting. Elizabeth, it's a pleasure to see you again. And Kaz, I saw in the hallway, Barbara, Judy, it's
For
really.
for folks in the audience who are speaking, sorry to interrupt, if you're speaking in the audience, can you guys go outside? Out of the room? Just, yeah, just go.
And Chuck, and I was, although I sent my partner Eric Beth to meet with the committee before, I didn't want to miss the chance to see some old friends and some newer friends who are on the board. We represent 220 East 86th Street LP, they're the applicant. And what we're asking for is something which, if this building did not have a variance from a long time ago, would be an as of right matter. Because of the variance, we need to go back to the BSA to get their approval to allow the zoning lot that was the subject of the variance to be enlarged and to enable, which would enable development rights to be conveyed from the variance property to the neighbor. I know there's, based on what Eric told me about the last meeting, I just wanted to explain the status of this transaction. There is no contract right now. The neighbor did not want to engage in negotiations with 220 East 86th Street until there was an approval. They didn't want to spend the money, they didn't want to hire an architect. When we started this, Eric and I started this, we thought there was a deal. We are continuing, hoping, of course, that there is an approval and that a deal will be forthcoming. So I know there were some questions about what is the developer plan and who is, all of those types of questions about the future building, and I can't answer them. And I'm being honest with you, I can't answer them. We don't know. It may be the case that the deal doesn't even congeal even with an approval, but we're hoping that it does and that this approval would enable that deal to take place. We'll let you know if it doesn't happen, for sure. I'd be happy to keep you briefed on that. So I wanted to just set that up front so you understand the status of this of the project, not of the application. So the building that has the variance is the building that has the number 86 written on it. It's 220 East 86th Street.
Just point to where I.
Sure.
Thank you.
And we'll show you a better view of that in 2 slides. The property is located, and just to continue that thought, wait a second. The building or the site that would receive the development rights would be this one where the 220 is, although the number of that building is 222 East 86th Street. All right, if you know the neighborhood, the building here is a medical arts building, and it used to have the movie theater in it. I'm sad the movie theater closed. I used to go to the movies there. I live in the district in the community board. I'm at 92nd Street. But there's no more movie theater there. Okay, so our application is to request approval of the BSA to allow the variance to be amended in order to include this second lot in the zoning lot of the property. And it's pretty simple. And that would allow the transfer of about 26,673 square feet from the building on the right, which is 220, over to the building on the left. Standard zoning lot merger in any other respect. So now could you move to the next slide, please? So to orient you on the zoning map, the property that's the subject of the variance is the red, and it is a through block lot. Goes from 86th to 85th Street. And the receiving site, if this deal comes to pass, is to the east of that. You can see on the zoning map that the lot that is the subject of the variance is a split lot. It's in 2 different zoning districts, and already in the C28A, which is historically what it's been, split lot forever and ever. Okay. Now here's a better image of the site that's the subject of the variance on the right. It has 2 leases that are operative, 2 different companies that lease property in it. Both of them happen to be physical culture establishments. One is mixed martial arts, and that's in the cellar. And on the second floor, but there's a mezzanine, so it looks like the third. And the middle one is called Orange Therapy, which is a different kind of gym. Now, as you all probably know, one no longer needs a special permit to have a health club. And so the PCE special permits that were granted will, when they expire, the businesses can still stay in place. Those leases for those two health clubs are pretty long term. They're gonna last until on the cellar 2024, on the first floor and mezzanine till 2030, and on the second floor, the mixed martial arts is till 2028. So the building's staying put, we're not being vacated, and that's what it is. And the upper floors, it's unclear what their use is gonna be, whether it's going to be residential or be used for some kind of community facility use. But it's not compliant, obviously. Next. So the history of the variances, just very quickly, the original variances were granted way back in 1977, were for allowing commercial use on the ground floor and cellar in the R8B district. I'll show you on a site plan that the building was enlarged and extended across the district boundary line. And on those lower floors, they allowed commercial use on the ground floor and in the cellar, and then in the second floor, in the 86th Street side as well, where one of the health clubs is now. Under the proposed City of Yes changes that just were announced last week, the second floor will be allowed to be used for commercial purposes in this district in the future. And then the original variance was amended to allow for minor modifications of the floor plans. So that's the variance history. Next slide. I mentioned the special permits for the physical culture clubs, for the mixed martial arts, and for the Orange Therapy. There were 3 different actions, but now they would not be needed anymore. So when these expire, the health clubs can stay in place, because the law allows them as of right now. Is that clear for everybody about that? Okay. Next page. So again, the existing site plan, this helps clarify what we were showing you on the zoning map. The variance site is what was in green. But the lot itself covers all the way to 85th Street. It's a through lot. And the potential receiving site is near lot 37. Next. And in section, you can see that the green is the commercial usage. The part that was needed by variance was in stripes, the hatched area. These were allowed as of right because it was a cellar and first floor. The mezzanine counted as part of the first floor. And on the 85th Street side, that green is commercial, but it was grandfathered. It was there from way before 1961. These are pretty old buildings. So under this, with this image, you can see the striped areas where the variance, the use variances had been granted. And they will, the only one that would really need to stay in place is the one that would be in the R8B. Once the second floor City of Yes goes through. Okay, but that's not relevant really to the project now, because what we're looking for now is a different approval. Next floor, next slide. So to amend the variance in this case, we need to show something under what's called the Bella Vista finding. It's basically saying that when the original variances were granted, they didn't consider the unused development rights as an asset of the building, and that it was appropriate that was the case. And it's okay today to be able to consider them to say that they can be relocated. Now, way back in 77, people barely knew that you could move development rights from one site to another, there was no market for them. And the findings that are necessary for the variance to be amended in this way are clearly met under this Bella Vista finding. If there were no variance, as I mentioned before, development rights could be shifted from this parcel to the adjacent parcel and a private deal that wouldn't come before you. So we are asking for the recommendation from this committee, from the board, that the request we've made to the BSA be approved. And that's the whole shebang. Next
Thank you.
questions?
Yeah, I'll just start out and ask some questions, then we'll open up to the public and the board. So would this, if it's approved, would the transfer of air rights only be allowed to the adjacent building, or would it allow for transfer to other lots as well?
We have to specify the destination. If that deal didn't go forward, I don't know, if we don't have enough, we don't know where else they would go, they could, you know, we'd have
That's the
to
only
be-
deal permitted under the application.
under this application, yes.
And then if that took place, what would the total possible height be of the receiving site?
The receiving site would only be allowed to go as tall as the zoning allows, which I think is 210 on a wide street.
So it doesn't change the height limit?
No, it doesn't change the height limit.
Okay, anyone from the public? Go ahead. And just tell us who you are.
Me?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Claire Blades, speaking for the community. So I want to clarify a few things because you said a lot of stuff. If the rights are transferred, does that mean that the existing buildings on 85th Street would get knocked down and go away?
No, the buildings on 85th Street are staying as is, and the building 220, which is the building that has the health clubs in it, that building is staying exactly the same.
But not forever though. If this gets approved to go through, it could potentially be knocked down.
No, could you go back to the third slide and I'll explain this slide for you?
No, actually.
Keep going to back. Back. Stop right there. This building, the variance site, is staying as is.
Okay.
What would change is this receiving site, which is vacant right now. And if this building would be knocked, I assume would be knocked down, and they develop a new building that also incorporates the unused development rights from this building, would be shifted over there.
And you're also saying that if this is approved, in one of the other diagrams that showed 4 floors of residential space in yellow on the left would go away.
No, those are on 85th Street.
Oh, okay.
Those are the 85th Street buildings. This lot, the variance site lot goes through the block. So this one goes from this not the building, but this lot, this tax lot goes from 86th Street back to 85th Street. It's kind of a weird.
So what I'm trying to understand and what I'm hoping for, because I think one of the things that everyone loves about the community is having smaller businesses and a smaller scale, and people are horrified where all of a sudden by itself, businesses disappear, they go dark, buildings are emptied out, apartments go away. All of a sudden they're knocked down, these huge luxury buildings go up, and it changes the whole character of the neighborhood.
Understood.
So what can you tell me that?
Okay, could we go back to the zoning map? I think it's the easiest one to explain. Okay, stop there. Okay, so what will stay the same here is 85th Street
Okay.
here. This is staying the same. It's I don't know if it's a walk up, but it's a low rise building. There's some commercial use downstairs. It might even be, if I remember correctly, there may be this lovely plant store in it on 85th Street. And anyway, or the plant store is further down.
Yeah.
Further down. It's a really sweet plant.
It's easy to post on.
Right, so this building will stay the same, nothing's happening, that's upper floors are residential, downstairs is grandfathered, retail. This building will stay the same, this is my client's building that will continue to have commercial, all the health clubs in it, and then upstairs, I don't know, it's gonna be residential or community facility or what, but it'll be zoning compliant upstairs, no change to that building exterior. The only one that would change is this building, which it's vacant now. I don't even know what was in it, but it would be torn down. It could be rebuilt now to be zoning compliant, but But it would, we're hoping if this whole deal turns out the way we're working on it now, that these unused development rights would be incorporated in this building, which already appears, because it's vacant, to be a candidate to be redeveloped. So that, you know, I understand you like having smaller buildings and so on, but that's already open. There are no businesses in that building today.
Right, the building that you're pointing to, I just wanted to clarify that when we looked at the photo, you know, from like the street view that said Varian site and the empty building, that all of a sudden we won't have two buildings go away with these huge monstrosities going up. The shorter building on the right is staying.
This one's staying, it's that one that would be changing. Okay.
Elizabeth.
I'm going to suggest that, if we approve this amendment to which is, the transfer of 20,000 square feet. The receiving site is less than 45 feet wide. Under the sliver law, which I believe, I have not been able to verify that there's been no zoning change, but under the sliver law, its maximum height in this case is the taller of the fully abutting buildings, street walls. Therefore, and that the fully abutting taller building is 143 feet high. Therefore, it has a height limit of 143 feet. It can't use the air rights that it has, let alone purchase any. So there's something that we don't know here that we ought to know. Even if it's not considered under the sliver law. It has a height limit of 210 feet. And it couldn't use much more in the way of development rights than it has. I think I've seen a building, maybe goes up to an FAR 12 with a height limit of 210, but you can't use all these gazillion that you're asking for. And the thing that I want to suggest to people, because one of the ways they might get around it is to cancel. And
Is to what?
we've had three
Cantilever.
cantilever buildings over other buildings. They, thank God we've got rid of them. They're absolutely hideous. And so I would have thought that if we approve this, which as you say, you know, perfectly good reason to have make this change, that they was put a condition that the receiving site not build except on its site, that there be no cantilever. Because otherwise we are under, we don't know. But the only way, the only reason they would buy all that land, those air rights, is to cantilever, because it couldn't use them otherwise. So I hope that we would put provisions in any acceptance that the building, the receiving site not build except on the footprint of its current site.
I can certainly take that back to my client, because this, you know, maybe what you're pointing out is a reason why the business deal hasn't really gelled yet. Maybe they're looking at the zoning. If anybody knows the sliver law, it would be you, Elizabeth. I'm sure that if the developer of the building is thinking about how to use it, I'm not saying that they would necessarily buy all of the 26,000 some of that's available, but this approval would allow that up to that amount to be transferred. Is it that much, or are they withholding about 300 or something?
Yeah. Yeah, the building, the owner of the variance site is reserving 300 square feet.
100%.
Right.
So, those configuration questions, it would certainly be a zoning compliant building that would be constructed. And I don't know that you need to limit the authorization to ensure that a zoning compliant building is built. I don't think that's necessary. But I don't know what they're contemplating in terms of design. As I said, the deal's sort of a little bit in flux. So I hear you. I will take that back to my client to see what he might think about any kind of limitation. My guess is that he won't want any limitations, but I hear your concern and I'll share that with the client.
Sarah.
I'm not sure if this is a question for the applicant for one thing, but if the deal goes through and the receiving site gets the new development rights, does the receiving site, can they then become a variant site and sell the development rights to another adjacent building further down?
I don't know the answer to that.
I think they would be hard pressed to do that. The variance is for our site, and the only extent of the variance would be to move them to the receiving site. Now, you know, looking at the building to the east, you have to have 10 feet of contiguity to do a zoning lot merger. And the only building with 10 feet of contiguity in the same zoning district is the orange one, which looks pretty built to me. So I don't know that they would tear down and build a new building either. So yes, in a theoretical way that could happen, but it doesn't look like a practical possibility. And I don't know that the BSA would allow a double transfer under the Bella Vista. I think that would be unlikely.
So to be clear, the orange building that you mentioned is the only third party that could then subsequently receive the air rights. And that would also require BSA approval for that to kind of transfer to take place.
It would, and I don't know that, I mean, I'm being honest about, I haven't thought through whether even this would be viable under the Bella Vista finding, because
Why would you buy something?
But even that second transfer could happen under just this that we're considering today.
no, this is one lot over, this is all we're applying. You would have to come back and we'd have to get another action from BSA, and I don't even think that would be allowed under the Bella Vista, because you have to look at because of the findings, I'm not sure it could happen. I'm not saying it couldn't, but I just something I hadn't even contemplated.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Elizabeth.
Two questions, thank you. The first, slightly tangential to your request, the city of Yes proposal that would allow the second floor to continue as of right. Is that blanket for all second floor? Can you describe what the specific city of Yes provision is? Is it blanket for all second floors in certain districts?
So unfortunately, the text hasn't been released. We just know the informational session, and you may soon receive.
The informational session was yesterday, and it might be videoed. You might
Yeah,
get
you look at
video.
it online.
So what was it that made you believe that this becomes as of right?
So in that slide for presentation, it says that if you're aware, the current limitation in a mixed building with residential above and commercial on the ground floor, they limit, in most districts, they limit your commercial use to one floor, because no one wants to be above 2 floors of commercial. However, the mayor has decided that in an effort to really help us recover and small businesses to flourish, the mayor is pushing forth this initiative to allow 2 floors of commercial.
Which will decimate more residential.
So I encourage you to,
So
I
that's a
encourage
separate
you to.
issue, and I appreciate the information. I love to just flag that
That's
part.
Yeah, flag them.
That's kind of.
That's a big deal.
They will be doing
Yeah, they're gonna come to us.
the
Yeah.
review with each community board, and so certainly make your opinions known then.
My second question.
If there is a zoning law firm, I'm gonna push Elizabeth Ashby's questions a little bit further. If there is a zoning law merger, what special permissions, permits, or other variances are required for a developer to build a cantilever building over a building that is part of the same zoning law?
So let's leave aside the variance, just talk about, okay, just their normal course. And zoning lot merger is an as of right action. If Eric owns property next to me and I have a building that's underdeveloped and he wants to build something, I sell my development right, and our lots touched by 10 feet. I can sell my development rights to him. And he can build a building that includes all of his development rights as if we were separate, plus my development rights, but only within an envelope permitted by the zoning resolution. So he can't go more than if it's a 210-foot limit. He can't go higher than 210. If there's some way he can be, with these large ground floors, 223, he'd be allowed to go to 223 in height, but no more zoning floor area than what's applicable to his tax lot plus what I'm selling him from mine, right? And then the only review that's done on that project is at the building department. It is as of right. There's no review by community board, by city planning, by the BSA, it's strictly as of right, and everything has to comply with the zoning.
Okay, so when my neighbor, which is a different tax lot, wants to put scaffolding up that touches our building, they need a license agreement from us.
That's correct.
So in your case, if you are the same zoning lot, albeit different owners, what permits or approvals from your client would the owner of the receiving site require should they propose or wish to build a building that would cantilever over the top of your client's building?
Right, in the zoning lot merger documents, they would probably include a request to have an easement over the building and to cantilever over the building. And that would be again a private deal between the two parties. And the issues with regard to cantilevers, aside from whatever you believe the aesthetic, the building department requires fire separation between the top of the lower building and the underbelly of the cantilever. And so there is DOB and fire department regulation about those cantilevers and the materials that have to be used and so on. So there is a permitting process. In terms of the license agreement, in any building project, where we were working on one today, we represent a owner of the co-op the co-op. It's a small, like 6-story building co-op, and developer bought a major portion of this street, build a big apartment building, Upper West Side, not this district. They have to protect my client's building. It's required by law, either that you protect the building or you're building at risk and you're subject to a lot of liability. And then if my client weren't going to allow the protections, the builder can go to court or get the court to order my client to allow the protections to go in. But normally the private parties work out what's called a construction license agreement. And so in addition to the zoning lot development agreements that make for the zoning lot merger, that's the typical, private deal. The adjacent property owners, just by virtue of being adjacent property owners, not because they're on a single zoning lot, would also have a construction license agreement. And the agreement itself isn't reviewed by DOB, but all the protections have to be approved by DOB. There's a whole process there for safety.
Okay, so effectively, the critical thing that it would be required. Besides, however many development rights, they would need or want above and beyond what they currently have. The critical component that would allow or disallow a cantilever building in this case is your client's willingness to agree to an easement. That's correct. Thank you.
Markham.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to make 2 points. First of all, the clarification, some clarification. Yeah, you mentioned very well about the lot that can be partially 10 feet. That's what is said in the zoning resolution. That is no longer that's the case. Building department modified this regulation that the lot cannot be touched 10 feet wide. It has to be completely. And this is a memo that was issued now for the building on Amsterdam Avenue, that they create a series of lanes. And that DOB, that is the only institution that interpret the zoning resolution and enforce. No, even city planning can interpret what they create. So that has to be very clear. So the bottom line right here is you are coming to have an authorization to merge, to create. Can you put the other slides, what is the lot in 2 dimensions,
It's the plan,
No, the other one. No,
the other way.
the other ones. Now, so you have right there 1 zoning lot. You have 3 lots.
We,
That is
right
1
now,
zoning lot.
this in the red is 1 zoning lot.
That is correct. We have the same language. Okay,
We haven't differed so far, as far as I know.
now we have the same language now.
You're right.
You mentioned they have 1 zoning lot with 2 lots. That's what you have. And that is 1 zoning lot. Now, what you are proposing is, let me go directly with my statement there. According with district needs and community board aid budget request fiscal year 2023, the ranking number 1 issue is affordable housing. Quote, in response to New York City's and the district's lack of sufficient affordable housing units, the board has voiced its overall support of retaining and increasing affordable housing in the district and recommends additional units in new developments be set aside as affordable units. End of quote. Let me be very clear. The developer as our business people, they cannot provide welfare to nobody unless they want to. Nor the developer can have more benefits than anybody else. I think this is the latter is the case. The developer wants more than anybody else. And one of the issues that he wants is he wants to transfer the air rights. You cannot do that. The only way that you can do that, and that's where you are right here, is to merge and form a big zoning law. So include that. And then when you have that one, you can transfer whatever you want. And the rest is interpretation of the Department of Buildings. So the Department of Buildings has been approving cantilevers. So basically, if we say you shouldn't have a cantilever, DOB will approve that cantilever, period. So let me explain how much is what you want. He has several variants that have been profit for 4 decades, more than 4 decades. Also, this wants to transfer the air rights. As I said before, he wants to transfer 28,600 square feet. Yes, you can do that. But let me put an example in terms of numbers that Santa Monica sold the air rights 139,000 square feet to the developer and $36 million. So basically it's $360 per square feet. That area, it should be approximately 400 or even more, rather than less. So that is right there, a large benefit. Now, another benefit that you can have it is that the development site, which is now is part of the zoning law, you can claim, which is perfectly legal, inclusionary housing. So that means now you can have 20% of the floor area more than anybody else by law, and that is correct. Plus 20 feet extra, so you can reach 230 feet legally. So the developer of that selling the air rights, they can have an opportunity to sell the affordable units that was created that face 85th Street. You have so many benefits. What exactly the developer should do for our community needs? That is my point. First, since the developer is selling the air rights in perpetuity, I would like to see also those properties in the rear yard to be maintained in perpetuity too. Second, these tenements usually are in poor housing conditions, substandards. What I would like to see is improve these tenements. Build new kitchen, build new bathrooms, and put new electrical stuff. And by the way, these can be considered as a capital improvement, and the developer have benefits in that part at the time when they declare the income tax. And the third point is in the development site, because right now is one zoning law, the development site, at least I would like to see 50% of the dwelling units dedicated for middle income housing. So that in this development,
Middle income housing.
middle income housing, that guarantee that you can have luxury housing, middle income housing, and affordable housing. I think that is reasonable what I'm asking. If you going in that direction, I will support the application. If you say no, I will go against the application.
There's no planned project.
I'm sorry?
There's no planned project.
No, because they must create one zoning law. The only thing coming right here is to
You're
authorize.
saying there's no plan for what that site is. You're talking about.
No,
You're talking about.
It's one zoning law. Now now you create one development, and regardless, whoever is the
They're
owner,
not selling it. It's still gonna be different people
No.
owning a different
you
building.
transfer the air right.
Just the air rights. They're not combining the two they're not combining the two sites. They're just
No,
transferring.
no, you are confusing. One thing is one lot and another thing is one zoning lot. And the zoning lot can be composed for 3 or 4 or 5, whatever you want. And then you can transfer the air rights whatever you want. That they describe very well. And finally, the issue is for those people that preach affordable housing, this is the time to stand up in favor of the community. For those people that claim environmental issues, this is the time to stand up. What I'm asking is something that the developer should work with the community needs, and then we support your project. Thank you.
I'd like to respond to that.
Sure.
I agree with you completely. The lot 37 here
Yes,
would have to become part of the same zoning lot
right.
with, what's our lot?
Doesn't matter.
38 that's outlined in red. So right now, my client who owns the property outlined in red, that's one tax lot and it's one zoning lot.
Yeah,
If they were to sell the development rights to lot 37, lot 37 would have to be part of the same zoning lot. You're absolutely right. So, and then the development rights today owned by the owner of what's in the red would be selling them to a separate company that would build. There's no relationship other than selling the development rights and what the lady in the back was asking about construction license agreement. There's no other relationship. So my client, who's the seller, isn't the developer of the lot 37 that would be incorporating the development rights in the building. So we would be happy to suggest to the buyer, if he ends up or she ends up buying them, what your community desires and say that there's a real demand for affordable and low income housing in the neighborhood. And that the community board, I don't know if this is all of the community board would like this, but certainly one member would like that building to become an affordable housing project. And I'd be happy to share that information, but my client does not control what will be built on lot 37. I'm just explaining, just so it's clear what who has what role in this project.
Let me clarify you.
Wait, just let her finish and then.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, you're also, I understand that you see that there are a lot of benefits that accrue to both parties here for being able to do this. If it were an as of right project, we would not be here.
Right.
And the only question is whether BSA will allow the conveyance. They don't get to be involved either in the design of the building or the use. So they might ask questions, but typically they don't get involved in that.
And just be brief, because we want to.
Okay, so
Let me clarify that point. Yes, I did some merging, and then I subdivide. I can subdivide whatever I want, as long as you are in compliance with the zoning resolution and all.
you're very good. We might have to bring you on board
No,
with
that's
to help us with our zoning lot mergers.
So the bottom line is, once you merge the lot, you can transfer whatever you want. Because that is your choice.
I do understand that.
However, you can maintain the same lot. It's your choice, but just only for pay taxes, high mortgages, pay water bills, all this kind of stuff. You can divide, but for reality, it will be merged forever.
Yes, I understand.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna get to the end of that, but Craig is online, so let's go to Craig.
Great, you can unmute.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I just want to make a resolution, and if seconded, speak to it, though I don't have much to add. My resolution is simply that we approve the application as presented, and be it further resolved that we strongly urge the developer to build affordable housing if he decides to build on the site, on the transfer site.
Yeah, speak to your resolution.
I don't even need to add anything else to that, but thank you.
Wait, now I have to. I was making a resolution.
Fine, okay, so, okay.
We disapprove it, so.
No.
Second.
No,
You can make a substitute.
I think that, okay, I'll speak.
You can do that.
Can I make this?
You can make a substitute motion, or you can just speak to this, it's up to you.
I'd like to make a substitute motion that we deny the application. I just think there's not enough unknown about this application to approve it.
Okay,
So the motion, the substitution is.
got it, that's the motion, it's on the- yeah, okay, David.
I agree. The only one who should be speaking right now is David, who is recognized by the chair.
I agree that we should not approve this. We're looking at a lot of area, we have no idea how it's going to be used. I think Elizabeth brought up some interesting points, and I did some quick calculations. That site, it's a FAR 12, I think someone said. That would get to 40,800 square feet. 70% of that lot, because you need to have a 30-foot rear yard, gets you a floor of 2,380 square feet. Gives you 17 floors at 9-foot floor to floor. That happens to be very low today, floor to floor. All the developers are going higher, but I'm giving them benefit of the doubt. It gets you a building 153 feet tall. That probably matches approximately the building to the east. If you went to 210 feet, you could do another 6 floors. And that would be about 14,280 square feet additional, or about half of what you want to transfer. We don't know what that developer is going to do, but the numbers don't make any sense without, as already been pointed out, can't believe we involve the other building or getting very esoteric, and I have great admiration for Marco's knowledge of the zoning. By the time you figure all of the ins and outs and how to transfer the air rights a second time around, but we shouldn't be into that right now. We should be into, does this transfer make sense? To me, it makes no sense. The numbers don't work out simply. We shouldn't approve it. We should only approve something that makes common sense.
Yeah, absolutely, yes, sure.
The only one is, what we're asking for authorization is up to 26,000 square feet. I have no idea whether the neighbor is gonna buy anything, or whether they'll buy even 5,000 square feet or 14,000. If they do the calculation, they bring you on the team, and they'll only buy 14,000. So
I understand what you're saying.
I-
I don't think we should approve anything
just-
until we know what the deal
All
is.
right,
well,
okay.
we won't have a deal, and that's a chicken and egg problem here, so we really are asking you to help move this along. Help me with my chicken and egg problem, I can't get a deal unless I get an approval. And if you're not gonna give, and what happens, to be honest, is that these things take so long, that, and they cost. They add to the cost, and, it would be really helpful to be able to get an approval in order to have the negotiation, maybe they'll only buy 14,000. And we'd be happy to have the developer come back and share with you what the plans are, but we would really appreciate, being able to get your support on, the request to have the variance. So instead of having a no, if you wanted to say yes, but we're interested in affordable housing, or we're interested in, looking at the design when, if in fact a deal gets moved forward, we would appreciate that.
No guarantees that the design could get approved. I just want to make a point.
Okay, I think you,
Hypotheticals, we shouldn't be giving you an approval on hypothetical.
all right, Michelle.
Yeah, thank you, Russell. Yeah, we can put whatever we want in the resolution, but none of it will be binding. So to that extent, I believe a disapproval is the way to go, but I want further clarification on something. If a developer would buy only a portion of these air rights, what happens, what are the possibilities for the leftover air rights? That's one question, because if 85th Street is not built to its height limit, which would be 75 feet on the mid-block, it could possibly be added to that, because that's a contiguous lot, is it not?
It's contiguous, but there's a district boundary line there. If you go to the second slide, not the title slide, but the second one. There's a district boundary line here, and development rights can't be conveyed across the district
Oh,
boundary
across the
line here.
district,
Right,
okay.
so the only place they can go is to the right or the left, and
And the other
side is the
building
medical
there.
arts building's already big.
Did you not say, however, that there were 300 feet that they were not?
Yeah, the client is going to retain,
Yeah,
so
okay.
they
What
could
is the-
theoretically, they could increase the height of their own building. I don't know anything about the structure of the building, whether it's capable of that. They may want to put a little pop-up, now, a lot of buildings, even walk-ups, put a pop-up so you can go out and use the roof.
Is that including is the height we're talking about including the mechanicals or not?
The 210 in the zoning resolution,
Yeah.
there are allowances for
For the
mechanical equipment, but they're limited by the zoning
Right.
resolution.
Yeah,
And they'd be limited by a sliver law and so on, so we're not asking to break the law here, we're just asking
yeah,
for the.
but there are too many unknowns. That's really, you're very forthcoming when you have a wonderful presentation. I thank you for that. But there are way too many unknowns, so I would have to go with a disapproval. Thank you.
So before I call on somebody else, I'm gonna just comment myself. I feel like we're getting a little sort of far afield in terms of what's been asked here, because if they're talking about. I mean, first of all, it seems plausible to me that somebody would buy these air rights just to build up to 210 feet, which is the maximum allowable height in that envelope. It's like, I don't see why we don't sort of think that
It
somebody
isn't
would,
for that width.
so then it's less than that. So I mean, that's the thing. So they
That's
can,
why I said a cantilever.
but no, the point is, it seems plausible to me that somebody would want to just buy the air rights to allow them to build up to the maximum height. And not necessarily need to cantilever.
Not cost effective.
Their maximum
I mean,
height.
that's their
will
problem.
be-
But then I guess in terms of the cantilever issue, I mean, I don't know how often has anybody in this room seen a cantilever board? All right.
The point is, you don't know. That's
You're right,
the
no,
bottom
you're right.
line.
That's true.
You don't
We
have
don't
the information.
We don't know, but well, anyway, yeah, so go ahead, please.
I just wanted to get, ask for one clarification. If you don't sell the air rights, what is the maximum allowable that that lot can be developed too.
Which lot is that? The one that my client owns or the one that's next door?
The one that's next door, the receiving, so the receiving site doesn't get their rights, they can only go up to 153. Okay, and then this would theoretically allow them to go to 210 or.
No, if there's no cantilever, how high could you build this?
Yes.
How high could you?
Under the sliver lot,
So guys, just let's get the answers.
the tallest adjacent building is the height. Now, this is a wide street.
Everybody, just let's get the answer to the question. Marco?
On a wide street, a building that's less than 45 feet wide can be as tall as the tallest building adjacent to it, or the width of the street, whichever's taller. So if the building.
No,
Yes, ma'am. 86th Street is a wide street. I think it's 100 feet wide. And so if the 45-foot wide building could be the taller of 100 feet or the tallest building like
What's that height?
about 143.
And what's the current height of the building?
The little building is
The receiving site.
like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6
So they
stories.
could go from 60 whatever to
So
143.
you see the orange building to its left, the pale orange building, that's how tall it could be.
We can't see.
But, sorry, that's the receiving site.
The receiving side,
Oh, you're talking about the next building over there?
Yes,
Yeah, I
yes,
understand.
The one
Okay, got it.
please.
So they could build, okay, so that, yes, so they could build from one to the other.
it's the street pole.
those are bathrooms and they're not protected.
Okay. Rita,
I make a motion to disapprove.
if that's the motion,
Call
is there a second?
Second.
Anyone opposed to calling the question? Elizabeth, maybe, but okay, so we're gonna go ahead with roll call. vote. Secretaries.
Okay, Michael Anderson.
It's not. You want to just clarify?
Yes.
Okay, the resolution, okay, the resolution for is to disapprove the application. So if you vote yes on this resolution, you're saying no to the proposal.
That's no? I'm
Yeah, I
sorry.
mean, no.
Yes means no. So Mike, you're up first.
Yes.
Bill Angelos,
No.
Elizabeth Ashby.
Yes.
Yes means no.
Yes means no.
It's a motion to disapprove.
No, yes. Gail Barron, virtual.
Yes.
Michelle Burndown,
Yes.
Lori Boris, virtual.
No.
Lorraine, Mrs. Brown, virtual.
No.
I'm going to get the pronunciation wrong. Juno Chala Song, virtual.
You can pass and we can come back to you.
She's right there. She's good.
She just needs to be on.
Okay, you got it.
Yes.
Yeah, you need to.
You don't have-
Triggered it wrong, so count that as a pass.
Okay, Sarah Chu,
Yes.
Anthony Cohen,
Yes.
Lindsay Cormack, also virtual.
Yes.
Rebecca Dangor. Yes. Louise Barber, yes. Bradley Hershenson,
Yes.
David Halpern,
Yes.
Sahar Hussein. Yes. Wilma Johnson,
Yes.
Paul Crickler,
No.
Craig Later,
No,
Addison. No. Valerie Mason. Yes. John Clement,
Yes.
Evan Meyerson.
No.
And Jane Partial.
Yes.
Elizabeth Rose,
Yes.
Barbara Rudder,
No.
Abraham Salcedo. Who's not here, sorry. Will Sanchez,
Yes.
Robin Seligson,
Yes.
Haas Spagnoletti,
No.
Russell. Marco,
Yes.
Chuck,
No.
Sherry.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Call me.
Right?
Yes.
All right, Rita Popper is a yes. And who? Judy Schneider. How could I miss Judy Schneider? Judy Schneider is a yes. Okay, so the motion to disapprove the transfer passes 23-11.
What is it, unless,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's relevant or not, what would happen if the one buyer buys all four lots? And this doesn't go through, then we've got a bigger trouble.
I don't know the answer to that, but we now have a resolution, so let's.
Well, what if they buy more property, a lot of money?
I understand what your concerns were. The sad part of it is that I don't know, we did say who the owner of the adjacent lot is. And it happens to be a company that provides affordable housing. So if turning this down, you may have a deal where affordable housing.
Well, you should have said that.
I did. I was saying, I don't know that they will.
Yeah, that's.
Okay,
I don't know that they will.
That's not.
Picked up.
All right, next is old business. I'm not aware of any new business. I don't think there is any, so there's a motion to adjourn. Second.